Okay, this is Ashley Fisher, and the best way I felt I could explain the hero's journey in this creative map was to write out the map and then video my my thinking process here. So I went off of the video that we just watched on the hero's journey and kind of the phases she talked about, and she starts with ordinary life. And so when we're looking at this in perspective of me as the mentor and I have somebody that I'm mentoring, I went off of an experience, a real life experience I had as a first year teacher. So it kind of starts with this as ordinary life, because this was 10 years ago already. While I was, oh, more than 10 years, while I was teaching this girl here, I'm going to call her T, she was in kind of her ordinary life stage. So me as her mentor, the things I had going for me is I was new to teaching. I was one of those people with motherly instincts. I just didn't have children that were preoccupying my life. So I had this beautiful gift of time. I crossed paths with this girl who has a growth mindset about life, except she was undergoing a lot of trauma at the time. Her mom was in prison for meth and living in pretty harsh conditions with her father. However, with her growth mindset, she also had the fact that she was very trusting of the educators in her life. But we also know that she was undergoing this survival mode. Really wasn't quite understanding her own situation quite yet. So this is what kind of led to our match as a mentor. She left our school and moved away. And so it kind of, to me, things got hard. I told her I'd stay in touch with her. At this point, I know she needed somebody, and it worried me that she was going to leave. Her and I became pretty close. She actually spent a lot of time at my house with permission of her father, and I took care of her and her sister pretty often. I was there. I was actually lived down the street from them, and so this girl came into my life more than just, at this point, teacher student. So that's kind of a quick explanation there. So what happened next, though, and I kind of call it crossing into the new world, bouncing back to that video, is that both her and I, as mentor and mentee, crossed into some uncharted territory. All of a sudden, she was relying on me pretty heavily, and I was also going through different phases of my life. Anymore, I was not a single teacher with all this time in my life. I got married, I had children. My time was not as easy. I also went through some pretty tough experiences as a teacher, and I believe it kind of made me tainted. So this was a rocky path for me being a mentor to this young gal. She too was having a hard time processing. She knew she was experiencing trauma, didn't know how to process it. The survival mode was wearing off, reality was setting in, and I could tell she was losing trust in the adults around her, yet she had moved away, and we'd kind of lost contact. Kind of thought this was the end for me having any kind of influence over this girl. So that transitioned into she is now navigating her new world. This was a few years later. She had reached out to me, and I realized that this girl really needs me in my life. And that I, as kind of taking on that mentoring role, I took that back on and took it more serious, and I made room in my life for her. And I put her into my family. And so she got to kind of feel more a part of us, and we worked together as a family to help mentor this young girl. And by now she was in high school, and what really helped with that is she moved back to Kalispell, and my husband was a principal actually at her school, and so we were really able to have an influence on her life. And so we looked at ways to provide support for her goals and hope, and as it worked out, and this doesn't work out in a lot of cases, she even moved in with us for a period of time as she had nowhere to live, and at that point she was homeless, but she was still very growth mindset, and she had the trust in adults was coming back. What she needed was a consistent adult, and she was rewiring her brain from the trauma she had gone and counseling, and She was setting goals for her future. So that kind of led to her returning back to, this is kind of a tricky thing, but she needed to continue this journey. You know, here she was accepting it, and I was mentoring her through that. And now it was time to where rubber meets the road. So I did a lot more listening and a lot of communicating, and I really realized her and I needed to go deeper, and her to feel like she can really open up to me. And I learned the reality of her past. You know, we're back here. I just knew something was tough, but then it got to a more serious point where I was mentoring her through some of the realities of that. Her mom came out of prison, and she was able to return into her mom's life, and they were able to heal through those things. She was not needing to live under our roof anymore. She had a safe place to live, and it was more of a phased out. It wasn't so much mentoring as this phase of our life was. And at this phase here, she was just graduating high school. By here, she's launching into a life. We wrote letters of recommendation. She made it into college. She had a 4.0. She was on the honors, and she had the world at its tail. However, she had trauma to bring with her, and that's kind of where we're at right now. Is she still has a lot of opportunity ahead of her, but there are things that are pulling her back, and we're just still cheering her on as a united front, my husband and I and our kids, and we're trying to help her move forward with this new path in life and for her own journey. So hopefully that kind of answers this assignment, and that this video works as completion of the assignment. And thank you.